A year ago, I posted a viral video that amassed over 7 million views talking about how my now ex boyfriend randomly sat on my couch one morning and broke up with me because he thought that I was unattractive. He, quote, hated my body. Actually, the actual quote is everything else about you is perfect, but there are things about your body that I hate. And the elephant in the room is crazy way to start this statement, but since I posted that video, I've lost a lot of weight. And people have certainly taken notice, and in true internet fashion, have made it their mission to find out if it's because my fragile little heart was broken into millions of granular pieces. I want to be very clear about why I'm rehashing this topic over a year later and even making this video. This is not some attempt at sympathy. This is not a crash out because I'm still yearning for my ex-boyfriend who I quite frankly do not care about and who was so unremarkable that he has not even become a meme amongst my friends and I. When I think about the situation, it's not even really him who I remember, it's the words that he said. When I break up with an ex, or honestly, even just a friend, I forgive and forget swiftly and easily. It is a little brutal, I can admit, and I never, ever, ever go back. But I think that we can all relate that even if you forget someone's middle name or the sound of their voice, the negative impacts of a relationship will linger through any sort of hard-headedness. And even the most healed people bear scars that remind you of a more helpless version of yourself. Over the last 3 years, I've lost around 45 pounds. Within the last year and a half, I've lost maybe like 30. I've struggled with my body image for practically my entire life. When I was 8 years old, my teacher called my mom into class because she had been noticing that I would throw my lunch away every single day. And my mom just thought I was a picky eater, and the reality of what I was going through was not realized until I was 17, after I had been living with an active eating disorder for 9 years. After I went through recovery, I got into a relationship with my best friend that I knew from high school, which was absurd, and I was 8 with an eating disorder, might I remind you. He was thousands of dollars in debt. I paid our rent. He bought the most expensive Hogwarts Lego set known to man the day after we were served eviction papers, and he took me to Planned Parenthood on our first date. And these are the more normal things that I can mention. So as you guys can tell, I just very carefully pick the most insane person every single time I decide to dip my toe into being in love. While I was in that relationship, I gained a significant amount of weight because I was so stressed and I was dealing with people buying Lego sets at inopportune times. I felt so disconnected from my physical body. And during this time, I would only leave my bed to go to the bathroom. That is it. I would spend my entire day in bed all day. I developed extreme social anxiety and I was unable to leave my house. I think for about a year, I only left my apartment every 4 to 6 weeks. And I just accepted that this was the person that I had grown into. I was 15 when I started gaining a following. And I was also a model in my teenage years and my early 20s. And I honestly just figured that I had grown older and, that young version of myself that was confident and thin and was the darling of any group conversation was just gone. I figured that it was just some teenage phase that I went through and that the 4 years that I peaked would be a conversation killer for the rest of my life. After I ended my relationship with my best friend, I was so eager to be in love, like real love. I legitimately accepted the first connection that I had. And I was like, yeah, this feels right. We're playing Fortnite until 6 o'clock in the morning. This is what true love is. And it's so much easier now to see it for what it really was. The love that I thought I was feeling was just a manifestation of what I wanted to feel. And it had no correlation with how I was being treated or really how I even felt about my ex-boyfriend. And when I was in it, the years of crying silently while a person who I didn't want to be with slept peacefully next to me and bought Lego sets finally caught up to me. And I was so blinded by my own delusion of fixing my own life that I didn't realize that I had searched for the keys to yet another lion's den and locked myself in. I was so good to him. I have been good to all of my partners. I've cooked, I've cleaned, I've listened to hours and hours of problems that they've inflicted upon themselves that they've refused to fix. And they've all been very lucky because I certainly don't think that anyone that comes after them will be treated quite as attentively. Because after a year and a half of absolutely nil romance, I have learned how incredible it is to be selfish. I never put myself first. I thought what love meant was to give yourself completely to the person that you love. Every single choice that I made, from where I lived in the city to what brand of gum I was chewing, was for someone else. And I wish I could say it's because I'm so nurturing and it was out of the kindness of my own heart. And you know what? Maybe that was a part of it. But I think we all know the real reason why I acted the way that I did. It's because I felt like if I loved hard enough, if I showed them the incredible perks of being with me, that maybe I would be enough. It would be impossible to leave a relationship with someone who loved so hard with all of her heart, despite herself. And this is why I am just so incredibly grateful that this breakup was so brutal and painful, because I think it was the only thing that could snap me out of being so incredibly naive. After my eyes were open to what I was doing, I couldn't unsee it, and my people-pleasing tendencies have completely disappeared. The only person that I want to please are people that are worth pleasing, and myself. I didn't really wallow for very long in the, oh, we dated for a year, that's enough time to figure out if you're attracted to somebody, or he knows my history of body image issues. Like, it was a very dangerous thing that his therapist told him to do, to tell someone who was a size 6 that you are unattracted to them because of their body. Or I traveled to Hawaii with his family. I stayed with them. I love his friends. I forgave the worst things about him. He was streaming Counter-Strike to me on Discord while we were breaking up. Like, what? Because at the end of the day, it didn't really matter what he said or what he did. And the exorbitant amount of red flags that I pulled out of my ass, that I had ignored after the fire died down, were a reflection of what I enabled myself to accept. Was it still awful? Yeah. And I am completely secure in allowing myself to feel that I was disrespected, a victim, and what he said completely altered the way that I viewed myself. But God, I am so grateful that he was unattracted to me, because it was the biggest wake-up call of my life. I looked in the mirror after that breakup, and even though I knew that my weight didn't make me unattractive, I knew that I had used dating someone who was clearly not good for me, twice, as a way to hide my full potential. I wanted so badly to fade into the background of life. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be heard. I was so afraid to make a mistake and have people see it. I wanted to be so average, and I wanted people's expectation to be so low that you would need a ladder to kiss a snake's ass. I wanted to be so irrelevant that people didn't even care about me enough to form an opinion about me. And I did this because I knew that if I challenged myself to feel the pain and the disappointment of failing forward over and over and over again, unlearning the terrible habits that I enabled myself to hibernate in. I could be something special. I could have the body that I always wanted. I could change the world in the ways that I really wanted to. And I could be happy. I looked in the mirror and I hated what I saw. And it's because I let myself go. The body that I preached about so constantly online, I only loved because it helped me get through some of the worst years of my life. And I was so ready to put aside the fear that I felt for years and stop believing that taking care of yourself and wanting better for yourself was cringy. This mentality that I had that someone else needed to come into my life to fix it is so embarrassing. And I look back at it and I cannot even believe that that's something that I wanted for myself. I had a lot of people ask me when I started going to my apartment gym consistently if this was a response to my ex-boyfriend hating my body, which really crazy question to ask somebody, but they asked it. And I'd always lie and say, no, of course that was the reason. Of course that was the reason. Was it the only reason? Absolutely not. The dedication that I've had to transform my body was never built on sadness or shame or revenge. It's just not very much in my personality to create really anything out of negative emotions. I genuinely just fell in love with lifting weights and feeling strong, and lifting healed me in ways that years of talk therapy and medication just couldn't do. When I first started, I could not even pick up a 5-pound weight, and I would rather be struck down by God himself than enter a commercial gym. And now when I pick up a 30-pound weight in each hand to prepare for a warm-up set in a weight room filled with people, I look in the mirror and I have never loved anyone more than who I see in my reflection. And it's not because I lost the weight. It's because after being raised in 6 different countries before I moved to America, after practically raising myself because my mom was in school and my dad worked in humanitarian services, risking his life, after having an ED from such a young age, after being in these awful relationships that I poured what little was left of me into, after all of these things, it broke me completely. It wasn't losing the weight that healed all of the wounds that I have accumulated over the years. It was taking control and responsibility of my life. I have always been so mentally strong because I just genuinely didn't think that I had any other choice. And every single weight that I've lifted, every rep that I've done, every set that I've completed makes me feel like I'm manifesting physically the strength that I've always had on the inside. I can finally see with my eyes how strong I am, and so can everyone else. And I will never let someone make me doubt my strength ever again. Talking about losing weight is really weird when you're a public figure, and I was so scared that people were gonna feel betrayed because I lost the weight instead of like loving myself. And honestly, I really do think that healthy looks different for everyone. And I would never personally speak on a generalized projection of what healthy looks like across the board because truthfully, you don't know what people are going through. I think that we put limitations on ourselves. I think life puts limitations on us. And I think I've just come to the conclusion that if anyone is upset that I lost weight, that's just weird because that's what I wanted to do for my body. I think it's also hard to talk about the dark sides of losing weight and dealing with the public's drastic shift in how they perceive me has shaken me to my core, and I'm not even being dramatic. I've had a lot of people try to make me feel better and say that it's because I carry myself with confidence and that's why people treat me better now. But I think that the sad reality is that when you become more conventionally attractive, you just live life differently. I lived life as a skinny person before my depression arc. But when I had gained the weight, I just thought that the world had gotten a little bit rougher around the edges. But no, the world is back in the palm of my hand. Strangers smile. They want to talk. People are so eager to help. People look me in the eyes. I'd forgotten what that felt like. People say my name in conversations again, and inviting me and having me around is something that is desirable. When this started happening again, I was really genuinely scared that I would fall back into having social anxiety because, as much as pretty privilege does change your life and make things easier, it made me sick to my stomach. I'm a working model. I got signed to an agency around a year ago. So obviously, my relationship with aesthetics is a little bit maybe different than someone who doesn't have a career where the way you look is involved in your job. You're forced to look at yourself pretty objectively when you work in the industry because if you're not honest with yourself, someone else will be. And I know that I'm beautiful. I would not have pursued modeling agencies or even thought that I could make a career out of this if I didn't think I was beautiful. I've done this since I was a teenager. But I think being on the receiving end of compliments and comments and experiencing how people treat people that they find beautiful or attractive is just something that I will never get used to. Anytime I'm on the receiving end of pretty privilege, it just takes me right back to that couch. And he's sitting in front of me. But this time, he's not breaking up with me. This time, he stays because the shallowness is satisfied with the woman in front of him that he doesn't really care about because she has abs and she fits into 00 jeans. I was so afraid when we broke up that every other man in the world would view my body and think that I carried my weight weirdly or I was just too big, which a person who is a size 6 should never be having these thoughts. But now I'm afraid of something new. What if he only loves me for my body? I used to get way more compliments on my sense of humor or my eloquence or whatever. But now 80% of what people say to me is about how I look. And I love the way I look. I do. I work hard to look good, obviously. And I like looking good. But I think a part of me feels a little bit like he won. And I lost. When I filmed that first video, I had to sit on it for a while because after that, I was just genuinely not okay. And obviously, yes, because it was highly emotional to film, but also it was so personal and it involved somebody else. I felt so guilty and so scared. And even filming this video, I feel very guilty and scared. And once the video went viral, I got a call from his best friend. Because he was blocked on everything. And he was like, he's begging to talk to you. He wants to talk to you to get the video taken down. And everyone I've told this to has always been surprised, but it took a lot out of me to not delete that video right then and there. I always put the people that I love first. Their feelings, their wants, their needs, always above my own. But that video was never made to cancel anyone. That was something awful that happened to me. This is my story, and I'm allowed to talk about it if I want to. It doesn't make me a bad person. It makes me a person who wanted to take their pain and turn it into something that means something. And leaving that video up changed my life. I think the most shocking thing was getting messages from other women who my ex-boyfriend had done similar things to. But other than that, the thousands of other stories and comments that I've gotten relating to what I went through was such a huge part of my healing. I've gotten stopped on the street where people have told me that that video changed their life. I've had people tell me that that video opened up their eyes to the patterns that they were experiencing and they've left relationships because of that video. And maybe it's insane to say, but I'll take my ex-boyfriend calling me chopped if that means I changed a couple lives. The big question, the one that my parents love to ask me, how do I feel about dating? It's a little cliche, but I'm waiting to find someone who is worth disrupting my peace. But I also wasted so much time not working on myself and my career that I think it's a little ridiculous of me to try to find someone when I don't really even know my own potential. And honestly, my criteria in men has skyrocketed since the two absolute legends I dated. I look back at those two relationships and I would never in a million years pick anything like that again. Just broke and disordered. Good God. But everything has slowly started to fall into place. It feels good, cultivating my own hobbies without a rat in my ear saying they're anxious or they want to die. It's nice. If you take anything away from this video, it's that change is possible. I used to be such a pessimistic person, and I'm saying that. If you want it badly enough, the landscape of your life can change so quickly. You just have to wake yourself up and realize that the sad reality of change is that it is long, repetitive, and boring. Take responsibility for your life, your feelings, your standards, and your time. It took me 10 years to achieve happiness, and every single setback and disappointment was worth it. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much for watching. I'm planning on uploading pretty consistently, finally. I also stream. We have fun over on Twitch. And you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Also, please don't forget to subscribe. Please. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.